Let me just start. Hi, everyone. I'm Daryl. I'm part of the Week 13 hosting group. Just want to say thanks to the rest of the group first. I mean, we put in lots of hard work at a time of the semester where everyone's just really busy. So just want to check, can everyone see the screen, the final seminar slides? Great.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Cool. All right. Just to start off, I'd like to first begin with an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge first the traditional custodians of the land in which we gather on today, which is Gadigal country. And I also want to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. And I'd also like to extend respect to any Aboriginal people gathered amongst us today. I'd like to take a bit more time, given that this is the final semester, to expand on this. I'm an international student, and I'm sure quite a bit of people here are as well. So I think there's a really great opportunity to learn from the oldest living cultures that we see on this continent. And for me, even more grateful for this opportunity to reside and also work in Dharawal and Darkinjung country. People may know that as Sutherland Shire or the Central Coast. And it's really through these experiences that I have solidified the belief that sovereignty was never and will never be ceded. All right, so just to go into a mini icebreaker activity, given that it's our final semester, I think it's good to just have an impactful one-liner. If you ask me very honestly, I don't think I have one myself. I'm still thinking of a good one. But even if it's not a one-liner, even if it's not a one-liner, sorry. Even if it's not a one-liner, that's okay. I think I just want to say thank you for Dr. Lockwood and the rest of the team for organizing this unit. Because personally, for me, I don't think I would have really gotten out there, given the busy schedules, and I think I've had a lot of experience getting out there with bush care or engaging with different aspects of my workplace, just trying to enact that leadership activity, and even in school, in my circles with uni. So if you guys could just use the chat and just reflect on this, that would be really good. Even something I was thinking about, maybe a favorite part of the unit. I think for me, it would have been the leadership medal. I think that gave me a lot of opportunities to creatively design something that's personal yet very appropriate to what the assessment task was about. So yeah, I'll just look at what everyone. Best advice I've ever gotten: don't try and understand the actions of others if it's something that you never do yourself. Oh, love this course. Say yes yourself. Say yes until you have to say no. That's a really good one. Love the Winnie the Pooh one. Control nothing but influence everything. Right class. Oh, all right. I feel like I'm forced to think of one. um, um, I don't know. I think when I was doing all my activities this semester, I think one thing that's a bit more personal was that being remember where you came from. Um, it's very easy for me to be lost in the work and all the things that I do. But I feel like the thing that inspires me all the time is just remember um, who has brought me here. So family, friends, and yeah, let me just type that down as well. Lead by example, love that. Yeah, I think lots of us have had that experience for this unit as well to lead by example. I'm sure everyone has had a very good experience doing their leadership practice. Cool, just keep them coming. Throughout the seminar, I'll love to just continue reading all the messages that you guys have. And we have about a minute before I'm going to hand over, so feel free to keep it coming in. Good leader when the impact stays with you, even when you're not present. Love that. Yep. And wait for the perfect moment. Take the moment and make it perfect. Yeah. Communication aspect. Love that. Thanks for all your reflections, everyone. I think this is really good. I'm glad that everyone is on the same page. And however the semester goes for you, I hope that everyone takes a huge lesson from everything that has happened this semester and looks forward to many more things ahead. And it looks like it is now 12:05. I'm just gonna hand over my part to Jimu, another one from my team. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Cool. If Jimin can just take over and get the ball rolling. Thank you
Okay.
so
Can everyone hear me? Am I good?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sweet. Okay, thank you, Daryl. Well, so week 13, I'm sure everyone's busy cramming for exams and finishing the last few assignments, but I'm glad everyone could make it today. To finish off the semester with a bang, today we have the very special Dr. Renee Lockwood, a lecturer from our very own coaching psychology unit. She has always been fascinated with the ways in which people make meaning, bringing this topic into the heart of her doctoral thesis. And alongside teaching and researching, she's worked as a leadership coach across multiple industries for, non-corporate, non-profit, education sectors. She's been all around the place. And she even often works, at our own university with academic professional staff to help develop leadership capacity. And so we just thought we'd end off with a wonderful lecture such as herself. So without further ado, can we get a round of applause for Dr. Renee Lockwood?
Thank you. What a fabulous introduction. I love that. All right. And let me just share it so that it comes through properly. How's that looking all? Looking good? Fantastic. All right. That was a really great intro. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciated that. And I really appreciated the acknowledgement of country as well. I thought that was very well done. So thank you so much. Really quick reminder for people, because I know everyone's really keen on this. If your emails didn't go out to your contacts the first time round, if you let me know about it and gave me the right one, we'll be sending that out again on Monday. Sorry for a delay with that, but there's many moving parts to it. So if they haven't gotten it, don't panic. It will go out on Monday and I'll send a reminder. Now to week 13. Oh my God. Can you believe it's week 13? I feel personally like this has absolutely flown by this semester. Give me a thumbs up if you feel the same way, because for me, yeah, right, quite a few people. Excellent. If you're happy to turn your cameras on, I'd really love to see your faces, because it's just so nice to be able to connect with you guys in that way. This session's going to be a little bit different to what we're used to with the fabulous speakers and even the lectures I gave at the beginning. The reason it's going to be different is because it's going to be quite interactive. So I'm going to get you guys into breakout rooms a couple of times. We're going to be doing tons of reflection, basically for the purpose of really bringing everything together in the course and getting you guys to synthesize your learnings. That's really what we're going to be trying to do. And hopefully make some commitments as well to things that you might want to goals you might want to set as you move forward. That's what we're going to be looking at. Now, we've had a fantastic acknowledgement of country, and I'm very grateful for that. I think it's wonderful. I'm personally up on Dungari land in Southwest Rocks. So if you're coming from somewhere that hasn't been mentioned yet, it would be great to just pop that in the chat so we can pay respects there too. And before we really get into today's session, I'd like to also check in with you where you feel you are at now in terms of your understanding of leadership. You might remember all the way back in lecture 1, we used a couple of little GIFs to see where we landed in terms of our leadership knowledge. And so we're going to go back to that now And I want you to think about where you are now. So here they are again. What do you know about leadership? Remember we talked about that first? And you put down A, B, C, or D. What I'd love you to do now is put in where you were then and where you are now into the chat. So it could be C, C to D. It could be A to D. It could be D to A. Maybe you've gone backwards. That would be fine too. But what do you think? What did you answer first? And how do you feel now? I have no idea. I know a bit. I know a fair bit. Or I know everything. Okay. Most of them are going up. A couple going back. C to B. Interesting. Great. Thanks for sharing those, guys. To be honest, if you feel as though you know less now than when you started, that's not a bad thing. In fact, to be honest, when I got to the end of my PhD, I felt like I knew less than ever. And the reason for that is because the more you know you don't know. Yeah. So that's also a very fair place to be as well. We're not going to feel bad about that one. Okay. So today what we're going to do is to really do 4 main things. We're going to connect, identify, reflect, and commit. So firstly, we're going to have a good look at a framework that we've developed that we've called the 3 pillars of leadership. That's going to help us to synthesize the information that we've learned throughout the course. We're going to identify some key ideas that have helped you to form your understanding of leadership, whatever that might be, and have some time to reflect on what you've learned, what's been most impactful. And then we'll also spend some time identifying your commitments going forward, because it's not just about the learnings, right? It's about understanding what you're going to do with that learning, how you're going to continue to develop, how you're going to continue your own understanding of leadership too. So today is all about putting the course together and reflecting on where we are and where we're going. So this is really a time to make connections between where you started, how far you've come, and where you're going next. So before we get too far into it, I want to do a really quick activity to kind of get your brains, working, get that interaction happening. I'm going to have a look at a scenario, and this is in the pursuit of thinking of effective versus ineffective leadership. I hate the words bad and good because they're so dichotomous, right? But thinking about them in these very simple terms, because throughout the course and throughout your leadership practice, right, I hope you've been getting better at understanding yourself as a leader. Hopefully over the semester, you've had experiences when you've handled something well as a leader. And hopefully there have been times when that hasn't worked well, because as someone put in the chat before with your fantastic warmer, mistakes are learning opportunities, right? If we never make mistakes, we don't learn anything. So hopefully some of those have come up for you as well. So thinking about how you might do things differently, and that means reflecting on leadership that isn't so great, isn't so effective. So I'm going to give you a little scenario, and I'm going to put you in small groups, and I want you to discuss what an effective leader might do in this scenario and what an ineffective leader might do, even if we want to think of that as a bad leader. Okay, so let's say you have this situation. An employee comes to you with a suggestion to help the team. Now, as a leader, it's something that you really probably should have already done. And so maybe you're feeling a bit bad about that. You just haven't gotten around to it. So I'm going to put you into groups, and I want you to discuss how an effective leader might handle this situation. And you also might think about that in terms of the leadership theories we talked at the start. I know a lot of people were interested in transformational leadership, for example, or we talked about values, the kind of values that guide us. We talked about self-determination theory. We talked about a ton of stuff. So this could be an interesting time maybe to weave that in. And also think about how a leader might handle that badly. What would it look like for a leader to handle this in a way that's not great and might not have such a positive ripple effect on the team? So in both cases, I want you to think about the results. How might the team react? What might they do in the future, depending on how the leader handles exactly this situation? Okay, so I'm going to put you in groups of about 4 or 5. It would be great if everyone could turn their cameras on, because that's really going to help a lot, especially, let's see, especially connecting in your breakout rooms. Make sure you come off mute. If you can't put your camera on, that's okay. All right, gosh, so many people in here, 4 or 5 participants. Here we go. And I'll share this slide out into the room once you guys are in there and settled. All right, rooms are open. Go for it. If anyone's having trouble getting in their breakout room, just shout out. There, which is great. You can see the little microphones going up and down. All right, and we're closed. Very good. Thanks for those of you who had a really good chat then. So anybody feel confident to share what they spoke about in their group? How might this be handled really badly? Let's start with that. How could this be handled poorly?
I can start us off.
Thanks.
So there's actually a quote that came to mind when I was reading it, from one of my favorite shows actually, and it was, if you lose credibility just by admitting fault, then you had none to begin with. Um,
I
yeah,
love that. What's the
which I
favorite show,
thought,
Jimu?
oh, it's a anime called One Piece. I think
Okay.
some people might be familiar with that.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought, I guess how a leader might handle this badly is that, since it's something they probably should have done but haven't gotten around to yet, right? If like the employee comes up with a suggestion, they might feel maybe even like embarrassed that they, should have implemented this but haven't gotten around to it. Um, or maybe they're like so arrogant that they, kind of be like, oh, we don't want to do this because, X, Y, Z, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And just kind of like prioritizing their image over the fact that they should have gone around to this, and just not being transparent that, like, yes, this is something we should or need to implement even.
Yeah. So what might they do? What might their reaction be as a result of those feelings?
Our group was talking it out, and their reaction might just be a little like arrogant, I guess. They might come off a bit like trying to put down the employee's suggestion just to make
Yeah.
it seem like trying to make like of like a fake reason or excuse for why that suggestion wouldn't fit in, to kind of
Okay.
make it so that it's like there's like a reason they haven't gotten around to it yet
Got it. Got
instead
it.
of just they
That's
haven't done
great.
it. Yeah.
And what impact do you think that might have on the rest of the team? If they said, for example, oh, yeah, no, look, we don't need to do that. That's not important. What impact would that have
Um,
potentially?
I mean, like, personally, if I was that employee, I would feel like, I'd be scared, maybe even scared to raise my own opinions again.
Mm.
Maybe in the
Mm.
future, in fear of just like getting my suggestion shot down like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Great.
yeah, it
Great.
would
So it would
definitely just
really
make it,
impact trust.
yeah, that trust,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. That's great. And what I heard in there as well is something we refer to as psychological safety. Psychological safety exists when we feel comfortable and safe to give ideas and to give feedback. And when we don't feel that, we know for sure through tons of research that we don't perform well and the organization doesn't perform well. So I think that's a really, really great reflection there from you. Thank you so much. What about if it was handled well? Anyone else want to jump in and tell us what they chatted about? Any ideas how it could be handled well?
I was just going to mention, so our team kind of spoke about acknowledging the fact that someone had the confidence and the autonomy to speak up and give a suggestion. And I think that definitely sets kind of the status quo for the group to then go and also give suggestions. And that fosters this culture of innovative thinking and, like you said, psychological safety, where we can continue to make suggestions so that way you can achieve a shared outcome. So I think that is definitely one of the ways where a leader can handle that well, just by acknowledging that, so that way you can continue that momentum in a team.
I love that, Stephanie. That's so great. So it doesn't even, from what I'm hearing you say, it doesn't even have to be about saying, oh God, I'm sorry, and the shame factor. It's more like, that's a fantastic idea. Well done. Thank you so much for that. And what we're doing then is scaffolding. Remember self-determination theory, we're scaffolding their needs for competence. Yes, I did a good job. I got good feedback. Plus autonomy, as you said, I came up with this myself, and that relatedness, that connection between people to develop trust. Fantastic ideas. Yeah. Thank you so much. Fantastic. All right, let's move on. I love this saying, give a man a fish. It's so sexist though. Give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach them to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. It's an old-fashioned saying, hence the slight patriarchy in there, but we can take it as it is. I think this fits really nicely with my personal leadership style. Particularly, I think it comes out, I hope you've seen it in how I've chosen to lead this course. I mean, what do you think it means in terms of leadership? Anybody want to add anything to what this means in regard to leadership? Be brave, be brave.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I guess in terms of transformational leadership, it kind of alludes to the idea that leadership is not just about your own leadership skills, but also building future leaders, trying to, transmit those skills to other people and give them the capacity to grow and constructively come to solutions to different problems.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I love that through the lens of transformational leadership. That's great. Thank you so much. And this is exactly how we've tried to structure the course, at least. We could have given you guys all the theory, made your heads explode with all the different styles of leadership, which would be giving you the fish. But instead, we really wanted you to have an actual experience of leadership. We wanted to teach you to fish. So if you feel in any way as if you've learned a little bit about leadership in terms of how to fish, give me a little thumbs up or write me in the chat just so I can get a sense of how effective that's been. Okay, I can see some thumbs up there. That's good. Great, great, great. Really good to see. Excellent. All right, so let's get into this framework and connecting what we've done together using the 3 pillars of leadership. Now, this isn't a framework that's been developed specifically from research, but it's something that we've put together to really help you guys synthesize the information within the course and see the 3 key components that go into leadership. And then you can see how all of your experiences fall into these 3 areas. So let's have a look at this. The 3 pillars of leadership. We've got the 3 main areas, because I should say there are other ones as well, but these are the ones we're really looking at. And that's leading self, leading others, and leading systems. So leading self is all about looking at yourself as a leader, how we formulate our own style of leadership, what values we hold, how we reflect on our leadership going forward, and how we coach ourselves, all that stuff we did at the very beginning of the course. It's also understanding the implicit theories of leadership that we hold. So remember, again, at the beginning of the course, we looked at our implicit leadership experiences to understand how we feel about leadership. And that might have changed completely for you over the course of the semester, or it might not. That's okay. We looked at all these different leaders and we described them in one word, helping us to understand how we feel about leaders and leadership. Remember, and we pulled out kind of themes from that. And then we also looked forward and we asked ourselves, what kind of leader do I want to be? So I want you to imagine that we're at the start of the course and I'm flashing up all of the different leaders and you're describing them in one word, the first word that comes to mind, and then your photo comes up. What would be the first word that comes to mind for you as a leader of yourself? I want you to think of that now. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it honest? Is it about patience? Is it about power? Is it about being a success? Is it about being a servant? After all the work that you've done, what is it for you? What's the word that would describe you? And I'd love it if you'd feel confident and comfortable enough to pop that in the chat. What word do you think describes you as a leader? Patience, ambitious, driven, growth, empathic, caring, safe, unapproachable, interesting, empathetic, resilient, uplifting. Such diversity. And that's what I love to see. The fact that you guys are all so different and you will be different leaders. That's great. This is just about sort of trying to understand yourself a little bit better. All right. So if we go back to this framework and we think about the course, one of the assignments that we did that really focused on this concept of leading self was the first assignment, that key aspect pitch. And that was asking you to reflect on what you feel is most important to you as a leader. What's the key aspect? And there was a wide variety of key aspects chosen for your leadership pitches, tons of them actually, but these are just a few of the ones that we saw come through, which again, so diverse, right? And there's no one way to lead and there's no one aspect of leadership that's most important. This is really about thinking for you what's most important. So reflecting on the qualities that we see as most important to a leader, that really fits into that leading self pillar. And then we also engaged in a reflective practice across the seminar, which hopefully helped you gain deeper insights into yourself and specifically yourself as a leader. So have a think now, what's one of the key insights that you learned about yourself through the course and through your critical reflection journal every week as you were writing? What's one key thing that came through for you that you'd be comfortable sharing with the class? And again, I'd love you to put that in the chat. So much more to learn. I love that, Michelle. That's so good. Me too. That's a lifelong process to trust knowledge. Great. How leaders who adapt changing situations. Nice. So some complexity there, Daphne. Yeah, for sure. Constant learning. It's all right to be unsure. Nice. Sitting in that complex space. Non-linear. Oh, I can see so many excellent reflections coming through about complexity there, which is really great. Again, keep those coming. That's great. It's really, really good to see these. All right. So let's also move on to this idea of leading others. Leading others is all about how we interact with the people around us as a leader. So like we were just talking about in that first activity, you know, are we getting angry and frustrated when someone brings something up to you? Are you thanking them for it and scaffolding their need for autonomy and connection? So now we're thinking about how we interact in those relationships as a leader. And if you're thinking back to the very start of the course, we looked at taking a coaching approach, remember? And we looked at how we might coach each other and other people in our team when we're leading them. So how do we ask them questions that are going to help them develop on their own, in their own roles, rather than trying to tell them what to do? We looked at some different leadership theories, again, like transformational leadership, which has that very strong element of leading others. And when it comes to leading others, the work that we put into our leadership manual was really the basis of understanding how do we work well with others and how can others work well with us. So the best of those manuals really reflected on those questions. This assignment asked you to really think about yourself as a leader. which is a lot about leading self, yes, but then formulate that into the manual that could enhance the working relationship between yourself and your team. So we've got the leading self, we've got the leading others, and then there's this other area which we're calling leading systems. And this is really about the kind of interactions between things and how we lead in the complexity that we find ourselves in. And really, a lot of it is just about acknowledging the complexity of the world that we live in so that we don't fall into that trap of linear solutions or black and white thinking. It's about leading the culture, the environment, leading change, leading complex systems. If we think about solving complex problems, it's about how do we solve those problems? How do we lead those changes? So in terms of leading systems, of course, we did the Navigate Complexity modules, and you guys completed that case study to understand how you would solve a complex problem using that fantastic framework that Jane outlines within those modules. Now, being a leader will likely require you to solve complex problems, and to lead well will definitely require you to reflect on your behavior and how it affects the entire system, the whole organization, how it affects the culture, the environment, the organizational environment, and importantly, how does your behavior affect positive change within the system? Now, coming back to Indigenous knowledges, because it's such a rich place to be. And one concept that I think beautifully reflects the intersection of all three pillars is found within the First Nations knowledge system. In fact, Haas, you might remember in his seminar, mentioned this idea, and I noticed it came up in the discussion boards, which I do read, and I love the fact that this concept came up. This is the concept of Dadiri, or pronounced Dadiri sometimes, a term that originates from the Nangi Kurikur people of the Dali River region in the Northern Territory. And it translates to inner deep listening or quiet, still awareness. So it's a concept and it's also a practice, right? It's not just an idea, it's a way of being that emphasizes the importance of, and here's the three, listening to oneself, that reflection, listening to others, and listening to the environment, listening to the whole system with that really deep sense of attentiveness and respect. So this intersection of these three areas is the actual practice of leadership. That's where it comes out, leadership in action. It's the practical application of being a leader, which you have also been able to do throughout this course fantastically. Throughout the leadership practice, you've been able to reflect on how you are leading self, how you are leading others, and then how you are leading systems. So I really want to encourage you to continue to reflect on these areas by asking yourself as you go forward, how am I leading myself? How am I leading others? What behaviors have I been exhibiting? And when I was doing my leadership practice, what impact did those behaviors have on the system, on the broader system? Did you have a positive effect? Honestly, was there a bit of a negative effect? If so, great to reflect on that, because reflecting on those questions can be so beneficial to help you understand how you're showing up as a leader. So those are some of the areas we've covered in the course, some of the elements that have come through the assignments that we've really tried to sort of help you strengthen and understand leadership in those areas. And let's also look back at some of our fabulous speakers. Luckily, each week we were given presentations from these incredible industry leaders, experts, professionals who have their own experience and insights into leadership. We heard about the great work that they're doing in the world, the contributions they're making, as well as their personal experiences. I love how honest so many of them were, and vulnerable in that honesty a lot of the time. Telling us what's shaped their views and how their values have been shaped as well. And I'd love to know which ones really stood out to you. What lessons did you take away? If you want to pop in the chat your favorite speaker or a particular lesson that you took away, that would be really fantastic to see. Lots of Dr. Carl. Dr. Carl's always very, very, I mean, he's just so charming, isn't he? He's so entertaining. But yeah, some others in there too. That's great. Okay, so what I'd really like to do now is an activity, thinking about this framework, the work that we've spoken about in terms of leading self, leading others, and leading systems. I have 3 questions for you guys. We're going to break into little groups again to discuss these last time. So firstly, in your groups, you're going to pick 2 or 3 seminar speakers. So it can be Dr. Carl, but try and choose another one as well. And discuss the key learnings that you've taken away from their presentations. What were the most important things that they said? What did you get out of those presentations? And then the second thing I want you to do in your groups is to discuss where you would see those insights falling within this framework. Would it be more around leading self? Maybe is it a bit more around leading others, or is it really about the system? And finally, see if you can identify any key themes that came out across all presentations. We're going to take about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see how much time we've got to have a chat about this. And honestly, this activity, if you haven't gotten around to writing your essay yet, the final reflective essay, these kind of things are going to help enormously to help you kind of ground some of those key ideas and unpack them a little bit. So it can be really useful. Is that clear? Any questions? I can share this slide into the breakout rooms again. I'm going to recreate these so that you guys have different ones. All right, rooms are open. And I'll share this slide in there. All right, looks like we're all back. Fantastic. So I'd love to have a bit of an open forum and hear what came out of those discussions that you had in your groups. Anybody like to share first? Bonus points for sharing first.
One thing we mentioned is that all of the guest speakers, if they had one thing in common, it's that they weren't fixated on one thing at the start of their journey. They just kind of let it unfold. Because I think most of them emphasize that whatever opportunities you can get, especially in your early days at the university, just take them because you never know what you might end up liking in the future.
Mahi, I love that insight. Thank you so much. That's actually not even something that I had reflected on myself, but I would agree with you absolutely. It seems like all of them were very much in that complexity space where it was just saying yes to everything and not sort of being too linear and goal focused in terms of being blinkered, but being open to multiple possibilities and multiple pathways. So that's a really great insight. Thank you so much. Any others?
I think, hi Renee.
Hi.
My group discussed that Jane McMaster was like a really important guest speaker, especially with her Navigate Complexity modules and how relevant problem solving is for a bunch of careers nowadays. Like in almost every single career, there's always going to be a complex problem, whether it's you're a leader of a group or like solving something that's related to your career. There's a lot of like problem solving in everyday world. So her Navigate Complexity modules really helped us learn about that process, how to best approach it. And especially for the case study too, we had our like firsthand experience of actually like solving a mini problem.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Caitlin. That's great. And what a great exposure to leading systems and ways that we can lead systems in a different way, because we do so often think that problems require linear solutions. And I think you're right. Engaging with those fantastic navigating complexity modules really show us a different way to be as a leader and to solve problems. So thanks, guys. Anybody else want to add anything before I move on? Okay, that's all right. Plenty of time to reflect on this stuff on your own. What we really want to go back to is that leading self element. Because of course it all starts with leading self, right? Even though we have to think about those others, this is really where it starts. So when we do a course like this, the most crucial time to reflect deeply is now, as we're finishing up. So take the time to really think, okay, what does this mean for me? And what am I going to commit to moving forward? So we not only want to look at where we've come from and how we've led ourselves through this process, but also what are we going to do? Going forward, you won't have this course, you won't have me, you won't be thinking about it all the time, you won't have each other on those discussion boards coming up with amazing ideas. You're going to have to take it on for yourself. So let's make a plan for that now. And I've got 3 questions for you to help you do that. So we've talked a bit about some of the things that have been important in terms of the presenters, but now we're going to look at the whole course and the different things that you've learned throughout. And again, this is really going to help you guys with your final essays. So first up, I want you to think about what has been the most important thing that you've learned from this course or from your leadership practice. And you just might want to take a note of that now. Just take a note down. What for you has been the key learning there? Great. Now that we've done that, I want you to remember that we also have to think about application, right? So we can sit here and say, I've learned all these wonderful things, it's great, but it's the application that's actually going to make the difference. So thinking about your key learning, how will you use this going forward in a practical sense? And I want you to just take a minute and write that down. Take a note there. How are you going to use that in a practical sense moving forward? All right. And finally, I want you to think about your commitments. So we're kind of tapping into goal theory again here now. What are you committing to as you continue to apply your learnings from this course going forward to further fuel your own development and your growth as a leader? For example, will you commit to finding a new leadership opportunity? Developing your communication skills by joining a speaking club, for example, or Toastmasters or something like that. Are you going to commit to continuing your reflective practice every week, maybe say for another 2 or 3 months? Just keep that journal entry going. I want you to think of 3 commitments that you can make to yourself going forward. Remember, when we're setting action steps like this, it's really important to be as specific as you can. Think about where, when, how, who. All those questions. Specificity is absolutely key to success when we're creating these action steps. It's really good to think about how you could measure your success. And remember, if you're realistic about the actions, you're way more likely to put them into practice. So don't make them unrealistic. Make them things that you think you could do. And I'm just going to give you another minute now to take some notes on those.
Hi, sorry, can I check? Can I add all this into the final critical reflection?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you can.
All right, thank you.
No problem. So just take a minute and write down a couple of actions that you can commit to. Small changes that could have a really big difference in the longer term with that repeated action. All right. If you couldn't think of 3 just now, that's fine. You got plenty of time, the Savo. After this lecture and for this week's discussion board, in fact, that's what we're going to put in there. We're going to put in our commitments. What are we committing to as we go forward as leaders in the leadership journey? So it would be great if someone could take the lead on that, on starting a 3 commitments discussion board, perhaps someone from this week's hosting group. If you were going to put up a post-seminar discussion anyway, great, do that. And maybe a different one as well. That's going to allow people to really just focus on their 3 commitments and sharing those. And then you guys can also coach each other, help each other by commenting on those if that's really helpful for you. Make sure that they're as specific and measurable as they can be, because that's going to really help. So I just wanted to make one last thing really clear before we finish up. And that's to please remember that there are opportunities to practice leadership everywhere. I don't want you to get stuck in that trap of thinking that it's just a position, because what is leadership, right? That's what I hope you've been questioning this whole time. Does it require a formal role? Can it be something that you practice constantly, no matter your position? Personally, definitely, I would argue that we're always leading to some degree, and therefore leadership's a lifelong role. We all fulfill it all the time, because it's about locating where can we make positive change? Where in the system can I make a positive ripple effect? Remember, we control nothing and we influence everything. So here are some ideas on this slide to help you identify areas that you might apply leadership learning skills, even if you don't currently, or even if not for a while, have a formal leadership position. Lots of ideas up there. And as I'm sure you've really come to understand, there's no one formula for leadership, right? There are multiple theories and ideas of leadership and what it is. But this is about making your own formula. That's what we really want you guys to take away from this. So which parts of this course are you going to adopt as you move forward in your leadership journey? That's the question. So what I'd like you to do, as I said, this week's discussion board, share your commitments. What are you going to commit to going forward as a leader for your development and your own growth? And then also this week for your final learning journal, you can use these reflections that you've started on today, your key learnings, how you'll apply these, your commitments, all of that stuff is important. And this will be very, very helpful in your final critical reflection summary, which is due on Sunday. And as always, I'd encourage you guys to take a look at the rubric for that, because that'll really help you see what we're looking for. And there's one more thing that you need to do first before this course finishes, if you can, please. And that's to do the surveys about the course. You will have gotten an email about that. So please make sure you do that, because it's just so helpful for us moving forward. I'll also post an announcement to remind you to do those and to include a link to make sure that it's extra easy for you, so you don't have to think much. I'll put an announcement up in about half an hour to help you guys with that. So if you remember all the way back in week 1, we spoke about this Sydney University campaign called Leadership for Good. It's still a part of the university campaign. And this campaign really showcases Sydney University graduates who have gone on to do extraordinary things and show the value of leadership. And so my very last question for you is simply, will you be next? I hope so. Good luck, guys, with the remainder of your studies. I can't wait to see the positive ripple effect in the world that you have as you take on what you've learned. And I think that positive ripple effect can be, you know, within your families, within your friend groups, within your organizations, and ultimately, you know, within the world to make it a better place. It sounds grandiose, but I believe it's absolutely possible. So thank you so much, guys. I have time to take a couple of questions. We've got a few minutes left. If you need to pop out, don't worry, I'll keep the recording going, and I'm happy to answer some questions if you've got them.
Thank you so much, Renee. Yeah, so we're open for questions now. If you have any questions, just pop it in the chat and I will direct it to Renee.
Thank you. When do the surveys close? Sorry, I read that one for you. Sorry. The surveys close. Probably in about a week or so, but it's best to do them as soon as you can. If you've got time this Savo, it's always good because you've got in mind now all the things that this course is meant for you, anything that it's made for you. So I would do them now if you can.
We have another question about logistics stuff, which is just
Yeah.
like, when do the leadership survey need to be done by, as well as whether the critical summary have to only be a summary of what we wrote every week, or can we add other insights as well?
Okay, great. So the surveys for your contacts, I think you're talking about, not for the course. So the surveys for the course will close in about a week or so. The surveys for your contacts are, we need them back by, I think we said the 6th of June was something like that, or maybe the 11th of June. I'm not sure. It's in an announcement up there. But ultimately, if you came in a bit late, if your email didn't go out the first time, we're sending out the second batches on Monday. So if you can just make sure that you get your contacts to do the surveys next week, that will be fine. As long as they're done by the end of next week, that will be absolutely fine. The critical reflection summaries are essays. So we don't want them to be lists of facts. We don't want them to be things like, in week 1, I did this. In week 2, I did this. In week 3, I did this, because that's not kind of synthesizing everything. So write them like an essay, give us an introduction, a body and a conclusion, pick out a couple of key themes, the stuff we've talked about today, and unpack how you've applied those learnings in a really practical sense. Show us some deep learning. That means taking the learning on from the theory and folding it into your lived experience. That's really what we're looking for here. We do need to see references because they are academic essays. So any of the theory that you've garnered through the course, any of the resources on the experience page on Canvas, and especially the research you guys have done yourself throughout the different assignments and anything else. So it's a very short essay. It's only 800 words. So not a lot of space to be deep, but do your best. That's why I'd say choose 2 key themes or key insights, and that's a really good way to structure it. And on the discussion board, there's questions and answers about all of that stuff. So jump on there and have a look as well. That'll help.
We have a question about, is it possible to contact anyone for further feedback or clarification on our assignment marking?
On further clarity or feedback, sure. Yeah, you can always reach out to me if you're feeling as though you're unclear about something. Reach out to me, and if you need me to put in touch with your marker, I can, but generally that's not what happens. Generally, if you're really confused about something, it's best to just have a chat to me about it.
And then I think we have one final question, which is related to the case study.
Yep.
Sorry, to the summary, which is whether we are allowed to add diagrams that we added to the case study in the reflective summary, or is it strictly just words?
Yeah, I wouldn't add any if I were you, because it's going to be a different format. So it's really just an essay format. It's also a very reflective piece. So we're asking you to reflect deeply rather than describe. And generally what we see is that diagrams and things like that are good for description of ideas, but they're not necessarily reflection. So reflection is, this is how I felt about it. This is how it changed my thinking. This is the way it changed my perspective. And this is how I applied that in a practical sense within my leadership practice. So I can't think of a situation where a diagram would be appropriate. But having said that, there are 1,000 ways to do something. If you really have to, for some reason, if it's vital, consider maybe adding it as an appendix, something that you could refer to so that you've still got the solid structure of the essay there.
And I think Alana, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right yet.
Thanks. Hey, Alana.
Hi Renee, thanks for the seminar today.
No
I just
worries.
want to ask a question. I wanted to reach out to you about just some circumstances that affected my lecture attendance for like 2 or so weeks. Am I best to email you, or is there a better way to contact you?
Email me is fine. Absolutely no problem. If it's just about attendance, then I'm the person to email. If it's about extensions or academic plans or anything like that, then it's Gordon is the one to email. But if it's only attendance, chuck me one. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I'll send you one right now. Thanks, Renee.
Okay. Thanks, Alana. Cheers. Yeah, that's right. The leadership practice survey will be sent out again on Monday, Caitlin, but only for people who contacted me. And I know that you are one of those. So yes, that's what I said at the start. And that's because it's not up to me to send those emails, unfortunately. It's up to the psych ed team generally, and it's actually a bit of a fiddly process to be sending those out. So they'll probably go out. It's possible he'll do it today on Friday, but I think the most likely is Monday. Yeah. So just keep telling your contacts to check next week. How many examples to show effective demonstration of leadership? As many as you need.
And I think since it is, and Caitlin also wants to know which email it will be sent to her contacts.
The ones that you gave me, Caitlin. Yeah, the ones that you gave me. And it will be sent from a Sydney University email address.
Yep. And I think with that, I would like to finish up with a really beautiful message by Caitlin. I'll just read it out loud. On behalf of my peers, I want to sincerely thank you, Dr. Renee, for your dedication and support throughout this unit. Your passion and insight made learning engaging and meaningful. We truly appreciate all your efforts. And I think it goes for all of us, as well as all the teaching team for this course and all of our guest speakers that we've had throughout the unit as well.
Thank you so much. That's really beautiful. I appreciate that a lot, guys. It's been such a pleasure having you all in this course. It's a massive course, 330 students, but you've done so well to communicate together. Congratulations to the hosting group. Well, all of them today's. You guys did a great job. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, I absolutely wish you all the best. Some many great things to come.